Do you think life is simpler as time evolves? For some, it can be more complicated when facing issues about health, estate plans, probate, long-term care, and more. That's why attorney CPA Joe Cordell hosts Elder Talk with Tucker Allen, providing intelligent answers for those thinking about their future. Here's attorney CPA Joe Cordell.
Welcome to another episode of Elder Talk. Well, this week we have a guest to talk to us about reverse mortgages, which we know that a number of people during the coronavirus have been wondering out how to solve these financial crises that have struck many people in many different ways. So we have an expert on this topic who has actually been with us before and has also been on the show in the past to talk about scams that are perpetrated against seniors. And, you know, why is it surprising to us that during a crisis such as the coronavirus, these people crawl out of the woodwork?
Yeah.
They devise, these clever schemes to bilk people who are older. So we feel it's appropriate that our guest today, Don O'Brien, will be talking about that as well. Many of you are familiar with Don. He's with the Better Business Bureau. He's frequently speaks on this show and other shows, so he's an authority on things relating to the best interest of seniors in particular. But before we get started with our guest, I want to take a couple minutes and give you a heads up. Our show will be moving strictly to online, so we won't be on this station as of the end of this month. But the good news is TuckerAllen.com, JoeCordell.com. You can go to either of those websites and continue listening to this show as you have in the past. We're thinking about adding a video feature as well so that it becomes, the phrase is a podcast, but then if you add video feature, it's a vodcast. So we're thinking about adding that component, so expect that soon. But those of you who've been loyal to this show now for, 6 years?
Wow.
It's been a long time. And now we know that's probably better for us to have this show online. And we will be doing that again. It'll be through TuckerAllen.com or JoeCordell.com, either one. But we will remind you of this over the next several weeks. But I just wanted to give you a heads up. Now, Jill, why don't you lead us into our discussion with Don O'Brien?
Right. And Don, you have been working with the Better Business Bureau for several years as an investigator. So you've seen these scams up close and personal.
Yeah, I have. And the last time you guys had me in here was at the end of March. And that's back right when everything had shut down. The pandemic, we didn't know nearly as much about it then as we obviously do now. And even on that show, I said, we're really starting to see a lot of stuff pop up with this pandemic. Well, now that we're 6 months from that date almost, this pandemic has been a playground for scammers. I mean, this is their Super Bowl, this is their World Series, this is their Final Four, Kentucky Derby, all wrapped up into one thing.
What is it, though, that makes a crisis like this such an opportunity?
Well, they've had the opportunity, Joe, because we've all been home. Everybody, the opportunity because of the shutdowns that were in place and the quarantining that took place, even up to this point. There's so many people still working from home. Myself, Better Business Bureau, we're not back in our office in downtown St. Louis yet. We've been working remotely for 6 months. So you have a captive audience for these scammers to get a hold of you, not only by telephone, but they can do it by text message. They can do it. We're on our computers. Our screen time has increased a lot, even for seniors. I'm sure that you're seeing, the seniors. I know my mother and father who are in their 70s. They now have a lot more screen time now than they even did 3, 4, 5 years ago. And, the pandemic, what can you do? You can't go anywhere. So you're going to be in front of your computer. You're going to have your scrolling through your telephone. And
you're going maybe a little lonely, wanting to talk to somebody.
That's what I was just thinking, especially with the seniors. They are so vulnerable. Many of them don't want to even get out to go to the store because they're at such high risk.
It's the perfect storm for them.
Yeah.
It is. And we've really been trying to, at BBB, we've been really trying to pound home the point of really checking on your seniors and making sure that, you always say to check on them when there's a blizzard coming. Well, this blizzard of scamming has been going on for 6 months now. So you've really got to make sure you know what they're up to.
So talk a little bit about what they can expect. We can revisit some of those topics we touched on perhaps in March.
Certainly.
But what does this look like when these people?
Well, they're taking advantage of what's in the moment, and what's in the moment right now is COVID. So what these scammers are trying to do is what they've always tried to do. They're trying to get into your pocket, but they're using COVID as kind of that conduit in. Believe it or not, there's some scammers. And again, we're probably seeing this not so much now, but in the beginning of the pandemic, we're talking about April and May, they were trying to say that, we have this cure for COVID, and you can get in, a vaccine, and you can get in now if you send us money, you'll be in first in line once it's released to the public, which is, as you know, is a bunch of gobbledygook because there's no, we're sitting here now and they're still doing the trials and such. But at the time, no one knew it. No one knew if that was a fact or not. There have been people who were going. Supposedly door to door, not here in St. Louis, but we got reports of other areas, especially kind of in the southeast, of people going door to door and doing quote unquote COVID tests. And they were trying to they weren't actually testing people. What they were trying to do is getting their personal identifying information. They're trying to get their social security number. They're trying to get their Medicare number, Medicaid number, and trying to get that so that way they can, they could make fraudulent Medicare claims and get paid out and have those types of things sent to them.
So they were posing as someone from the health department?
Yes. They might put on the dress you might see a nurse wear, or a smock
jacket or something.
Yeah, exactly. And they may, they can quote unquote look official. So they were, there are many ways to go in there. One thing we talked about here, I know in March, was the grandparent scam when we were talking about how. Little Johnny might be on trouble on spring break, and you need to send him money now because he's been arrested.
Well, especially if it sounded like something little Johnny would do.
Correct, yeah. You're like, little Johnny's up to it again. So you just believe that little Johnny was in trouble. But now what they're doing is they're saying that instead of little Johnny's been arrested, well, guess what? Little Johnny's been admitted to the hospital with COVID, and you need to pay his doctor bill right now. Yeah, I mean,
that is ruthless.
These people,
that is. Yeah. How do those people sleep at night?
They don't. Well, probably on a nice pile of money that people give to them.
Yeah. Well, and with social media, you can find out so much information about people just on their Facebook accounts.
Correct. Yeah. And that's why, and Joe, you make a good point there, and that if you do have Facebook, my mother has Facebook, if you're seniors, really anybody, I don't care if you're 72 or 27, if you have Facebook, you need to make sure that you have your permissions or you need to have that locked down as much as you can. Don't make a lot of things public.
Right.
Because as you just said, if you have it public and then all of a sudden you see that you have this family, you can see that, this person has marked this person as their daughter and this person is their son.
You can make those connections.
And then this person says, this person's my daughter. Well, guess what? All of a sudden now so-and-so's granddaughter by looking through these public profiles on Facebook. And then if the granddaughter says, living it up down here in Panama City, well, guess what? Well, now you've given that scammer, guess what? I know that, little Sarah is in Panama City. I'm going to go to Grandma now and try to get money out of her, saying she's in some kind of trouble. I can find Grandma's phone number because some of that stuff is, believe it or not, easily available online.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you have these wheels go in motion for an easy scam.
And that also reveals when people are out of town. People are so fond of on their Facebook page or in Instagram, including messages that they may not have checked the filters on these programs.
Right.
Yep.
You can set the filters for privacy levels.
Yes.
And some are very permissive because, their intention, quite frankly, is this infamy online or fame, whatever you want to call it, that so many young people thirst after.
Yes. So you've got to make sure that when and it's pretty easy to do. If you go to Facebook, there's ways you can go on through that. And if you don't know how to set your permissions and how to make everything private, you can really just Google that and say how to make things private on Facebook, and you can go step by step. It's really easy to do. So if you happen to be taking part in these social medias, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or, I don't know if any senior citizens are on TikTok or not, but, if you are, you've really got to make sure I haven't messed with
Trump's going to take away the right to use TikTok.
Yeah, he is trying to shut that down.
Probably a good thing.
But you've got to make sure you shut those down, folks, because all you're doing by letting everybody see things, yes, you may let your neighbor see it, who might not be a quote-unquote friend of yours, but you're also letting the bad guys see it as well.
We had a financial planner on here recently, and some of you may have listened to that show. in which it was a show about an entirely different topic, but he was so stunned by this recent spate in which he had clients. And these are clients who they're older and they were a little more vulnerable, but they were sent, I think it began with some sort of correspondence or a phone call purporting to be from the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, you need to pay X amount of money in a certain amount of time. And these people had actually gone and wired money and transferred money in the amounts of, I mean, one was $100,000.
Yep. Yeah, and one was the scammer pretended to be from the U.S. Marshal's office, and you can't tell anybody because this is a top secret situation. And it was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it must have been somewhat credible because these people, they were older and vulnerable, but to their credit, you wonder if there was if they really pulled this off in a in a little more polished way than we would imagine. Because I imagine a call like that, and you want to brush it off as being silly, but these people probably put together quite a show.
I'm sure.
Yeah, they read from scripts. This is all scripted out by even these scammers. We laugh at them and think they're, well, what kind of idiot's going to try to take money from a little old lady? But they have scripts they go by. For romance scams, we see these things. What you explained there, Joe, was a government imposter scam. And during COVID, we've seen different government imposter scams. They may have used the IRS. The last couple months, they'll tell people they're from the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, because now we hear every night, what's the CDC recommended? Or they might go with the WHO, the World Health Organization. We've heard so much about the World Health Organization in the last 6 months. We've known more about the CDC and the WHO in the last 6 months than we did the last 60 years combined, probably, with as far as they've been in the news. So these scammers take advantage of what's happening in the moment. They take, the IRS scam is now all of a sudden a CDC scam, or they'll say, you know what, we're with the CDC and we need to get your social security number to get your health history to see if you're susceptible to COVID or something.
See, that would sound credible, I would think, to a lot of people. If you mention, I'm with the World Health Organization or CDC, and we need to check on your records, and in order to do that, we need your social security number. I can imagine a lot of people would give them that.
Yep.
Falling for it, sure.
Yep, but you've got to protect those. You've got to, it's... In our lifetimes, I'll turn 50 later this year, and I went to college in the early 90s. And the way that I was identified at Eastern Illinois University was by my social security number. I went to the wall and I saw what my score was by my social security number. That's how they looked at things. We had our social security number on our checks at one point.
I remember
driver's
those days.
license too.
Yes, driver's license. So, there are some, especially for folks who are older, A, they're more trusting, and B, they've lived in a society where that information was readily available. So they think, well, it used to be okay to give anybody my social security number. Why couldn't I give that to you now? So I guess we at BBB really want folks to protect that information as much as they can. Protect your social security number. If you had a Medicare, Medicaid number, protect that as well. Don't give that out. Again, just keep it close to the vest, and only let your loved ones really know that. If you have a son or daughter or some other person who helps you with your affairs, make sure they know that information, but really no one else.
And if you're just tuning in, we have our special guest, Don O'Brien, an investigator with the Better Business Bureau. Don, with these uncertain economic conditions, many people feel the need to get some cash. And we're going to talk about reverse mortgages. Have you seen scams in this area?
We've not seen scams, but we have seen certainly a lot more talk about reverse mortgages. Again, anybody who's been at home for the last 6 months, I'm a fan of watching older TV shows, and there's a channel here in St. Louis, MeTV.
Love MeTV.
I love MeTV. It has all the old shows. I watch Perry Mason in the morning after Little Leave It to Beaver. But you'll see these commercials. You get hit with these commercials for reverse mortgages.
I've seen those.
Yeah. And again, there's nothing wrong with the commercials themselves. But what it is it's something that if you decide to get involved with one of these, you really have to know what you're doing, because a lot of us have put a lot of money into our houses to make them an investment, so that when we do get older, we might want to sell it and go to.
It's the primary source of cash for people as they age.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, often the equity exceeds the amount in their 401ks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you've built up all this equity in this house, and all of a sudden you get to a situation like COVID-19 where, if you're still working and you may be, 60, 70 years old, you're like, okay, boy, and I'm, maybe you're laid off and maybe your unemployment's run out and you're just looking for some money. How can you do that? All of a sudden you're watching Perry Mason. All of a sudden you see this reverse mortgage commercial come on. You're like, bingo, maybe that's something I should do.
Well, if it's Tom Selleck talking, it's got to be the right.
Well,
it is Tom Selleck. You're exactly right, Joe. It's Tom Selleck who does those commercials.
He's pretty good, isn't he?
Yes.
And he looks pretty good for his age. How old must that guy be?
He's got to be 70 plus.
Yeah.
He's aged really well.
Yes.
Have you seen the Jesse Stone movies he's done?
Recently.
Oh, no, they were probably made within the past 10 years or so. Great movies, by the way.
Yeah. So then again, you've got this person who's trusted
Yeah.
by a lot of people. They loved him as Magnum PI.
And he says his mother got one. Didn't
Correct.
he?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So whether his mother did or not, who knows? But again, here's a kind of a new. Not new. Reverse mortgages have been around for a while, but it might be new to people. You're like, okay, maybe this is a way that I can help supplement my income because I just don't have enough money that I used to have because of this pandemic that's all of a sudden hit us in the face. So what it does, it allows the homeowners to convert part of that equity in the home into cash without having to sell the property. So, but there's certain things you have to do. See, I am too young. You have to be at least 62 in order to take advantage of one of these.
And these are federal regulations.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, these are federal regulations.
So only one of say you've got spouses, Barb and Larry, only one of them has to be 62.
I believe that's right, although I think it might actually go by the youngest in the house. So if Barb is 62 and who's she married to?
Larry.
If Larry's 58, they might go off of Larry's because Larry would technically, I guess, have a longer life expectancy because he's 4 or 5 years younger than what Barb is.
There are too many Larrys who are 62 whose wives are 32.
Well, that's true.
Correct. So if you're 62 and you got that 32-year-old wife, I don't know if reverse mortgage is going to be free. You might not qualify. But if the home is only in his name and not in the 32-year-old wife's name, then you would be able to take advantage of these. And the one thing that you do see sometimes in these is companies who want to charge you an upfront fee in order to do all this work for you. In BBB, a lot of times when we hear upfront fee, we hear upfront fee, but we see red flag in our brain,
right?
Because that's something that if you're going to do some work for somebody, you're going to want to make sure that work is done before you pay them.
Now, let me ask you this question, and you may not know the answer to this because it's a legal question, and I don't deal with this a lot. But my understanding though is that these federal insurance programs by which the federal government guarantees certain loans or subsidizes to the extent some loans go bad. They only offer that sort of coverage if these criteria are met. So I'm wondering if someone, for example, were to create a product that a 60-year-old could buy, in other words, did not comply with these rules, is that still under state law permissible? Do you know the answer to that?
Again, it'd be somebody smarter with some type of.
So people understand then the products they're going to run into are those that conform with these federal rules.
Yes,
that's I'm sure 90% plus of the market out there.
Correct. What these programs do is it could cost you a lot of money in the end. That's basically, it sounds good when you're hearing the pitch on TV in that 60-second commercial, but you've really got to make sure that this is something for you. And if you're a 62-year-old, the interest fees, if you're, let's say you live to 90 and you want to stay in that same residence for that entire time. Well, when it's time to get out of when it's time to sell that residence and move to a home or something, you could be looking at a very hefty bill at that point. This is something.
But it cannot exceed, though, what is covered by the mortgage.
Correct.
So we should make that clear. You're not personally liable, but the point is this does accumulate every month you're there. Mm-hmm. It's accumulating interest that you don't have to pay at the time. It'll be paid theoretically when you pass away, or as you just said in that example, or if you go into long-term care when you sell the house.
Correct.
And it could, suck up all of the existing mortgage or the equity at that time.
And it can. And there's different ways you can get your money through one of these reverse mortgages. You could go get a monthly payment, and then all of a sudden your interest that you're racking up is only on what you've quote unquote taken out to that point.
Like a line of credit.
Correct. If you do a lump sum and you say, "Hey, I want all of it up front," then all of a sudden that's when that's
the
when
full amount starts accruing interest.
Correct. So it can really be damaging. So the one thing that we recommend at BBB, if you decide to look at one of these things and you have an heir that you might want to leave that residence to, make sure you get him or her involved and kind of have them walk with you along this path. So that way they know when you're at the end of the path and they're still going, what it's going to cost you to get that residence from that reverse mortgage company.
Well, and there's also some ads that say that your heirs can still inherit the home, but that's not exactly true. Can you explain that?
Well, again, you have to pay it before you get it. You're going to have to make sure that reverse mortgage has been paid to that company before you are able to inherit that. So, there's a lot of instances where they just,
there's no equity left.
There's no equity left, and there's nothing left for that heir.
How is it determined, though, how much cash you get on your home? Like, say your home is paid for. Does it go by what the current value is?
It's current value. It also goes in how old you are and kind of what kind of interest rate you're going to be. If you have really good credit, you're old and they don't think you're going to have that for very long, then you're going to be able to get reverse mortgage a lot easier than if you're, somebody in their early 60s who's like at the beginning of that window, the 62-year-old person. Maybe they don't have that much equity built up into the house, and then they might not be able to get as much from that reverse mortgage loan as somebody who's older who has more equity in the home.
So they're looking at your lifespan. From that point, and they're able to determine whether there's enough equity there that's likely to hold out for the amount of money that you will owe them plus the interest.
Well, do they consider things like, the housing market bottoming out like it did in 2008? Do they consider anything like that happening?
I'm not sure about.
It's their risk.
I can't speak to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're assuming that risk because they're essentially accepting it's a collateral-based loan. It's not a personal loan. So it's not a loan that's based on that person's good credit, though they may be interested in their having some good credit just to maintain the house, et cetera, because they worry that the property, their security will deteriorate.
The good thing about all this, though, is if you decide that reverse mortgage is something that you want to look into, there are counselors that are available through the Home Equity Conversion Mortgage, HECM. And those people are provided at no cost or a very low cost to you. They can give you that type of counseling that you need on something like this. So it's not as if that you have to go pay a lot of out of pocket if you're wanting to go down this road. You can see if this is something that might be right for you and decide whether or not to go from there.
And where would you find someone like that?
Whether you can find, and those folks are through HUD, the Housing and Urban Development. So that's where you want to go. That's going to be your first stop, and to see where who you might be able to talk to, and they'll be able to again get you going down that path and make sure it's something that's right for you.
So you necessarily don't want to respond to one of those ads you see on MeTV, even if it is Tom Selleck.
Even if it's Tom Selleck, you want to look at With anything, we're really big at BBB about research. Do your research. If it's a company that, if they're not going to charge you some type of upfront fee to start off with, that'd be something you might want to listen to. But if all of a sudden they say, well, Joe, we'll help you with this, but it's going to cost you $1,000 for us to sit down with you, that'd be like, well, okay, I'm going to maybe go somewhere else. You don't have to pay those types. Certainly with something like this, you wouldn't have to pay any fee at all if you use the governmental the things that are out there for you.
So when we think about these options, though, that are available for somebody who is wanting to stay in their home and they know with absolute certainty that if they have their choice, they want to be in their home. And for that person, if they don't have any heirs that they're looking to who they really think need this money, who perhaps are depending on this money, they either have no heirs or they have self-sufficient heirs. That person could be somebody who may very well be a classic candidate for this, right?
Very much so.
Where they borrow the money, they stay in the house, and they don't end up having to move out to go into long-term care at some point. And they end up, living life as they chose and dying in that house. That would probably be the stereotypical scenario that would work out wonderfully for this. And by contrast, I guess the opposite of that might be somebody who is perfectly willing to consider living somewhere else and may even want to live in a communal environment, which is something that, wouldn't you say that people should consider where they really see themselves over the next 20, 30 years, even assuming their health permits? Let's assume their health would permit them to choose. will people necessarily want to live in what would be relative isolation as they get older in their house?
That's the one thing that when you look at doing something like this, which is I don't know if you call this an end of life decision, but it kind of is. You've got to look out. I've got for those of you who can't see through the radio, I've got my hand right in front of my face. You got to make the decision of way out here. Even though that in the short term you're looking at a bad situation, well, you have to think long term on something like this. Not just because, hey, I'm down a little bit money right now because my income's bad because of the COVID.
Right.
You've got to think down the line. You have to almost the 30,000-foot view rather than the street view if you're on Google. If you know what I mean. The short term is your street view on Google. Your satellite view is what you really need to look at when you're making a decision like this. How is it going to affect me? Not in 2020, but if I'm hoping to be here in 2045, how is this going to affect me then?
Yeah. And I think that's hard to do when people are in a financial crunch like many people are now or have been. Yep. And they tend to try to solve that problem with what is really a long-term solution, as you said, not a short-term solution.
Yep.
And if you really think that you see yourself living in a communal environment, they call them these retirement communities, and it's about being around people. It's about, even if it's not assisted living, I mean, you can have independent living under those circumstances, and you can progress or digress, as it may be. But you start out with independent living. There's a point in which you may transition to assisted, and then maybe or maybe not, you'll at some point transition to skilled care. Many people are choosing that option, and if you see yourself as being somebody who would want to gravitate in that direction at some point, this is probably not the right product.
No, but what you can do if you're in a money pinch is you've got the common home equity loan, the thing you can get through your bank, and you can look at that might be something for your short term needs. And again, I'm not promoting one or the other, but I'm just saying that that's an alternative for you, and that's something you're going to have to research. And if you have a lender that you've worked with for a long time, they may give you a good rate. And, so there are other ways to use the equity in your home rather than whatever you're seeing on a television commercial.
Yeah. And what you're suggesting, which is a more standard home loan, is you pay it off in the shorter term. So this would be something that you'd have to start making payments on, but it's not unusual to be able to defer those for 6 months or so.
I've used those before, and I think each time it was like 10 years I had to use it when we took out home equity loans we just had building project we want to do. So we used that money we were putting back in our house anyway. But this is a different situation. But again, you have a long time to pay those off. It's not as if they're going to make you pay it off in 60 or 90 days or something like that.
Right.
So, that's another option if you happen to be in a spot where you're looking to use a little bit of equity in your home to get you through these tough times.
Yeah. And and like we were saying, you always want to understand the repayment terms.
Yes, that is huge. The fine print on something like this is vital to know what you have to, or what, maybe not what you would have to repay, but what your heir might have to repay once you move on and he or she wants to inherit that residence, if there's an ability for them to do so. Yeah, really got to read those fine terms.
And let's shift gears with housing investors. I'm sure you're familiar with the folks that want to buy your home and remodel it and then flip it.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. Like, we'll pay cash.
Yes,
same day or something.
And a lot of those companies are legitimate, but do you ever come across?
We do get complaints about those types of business, and certainly inquiries for sure because of the way they're marketed right now. As you said, you might get something in your mailbox. You might see something pop up on your social media channel because maybe you're looking to sell your house somewhere else, because obviously Facebook knows whatever you're looking up. So you might see something might pop up into that. But again, research. I mean, it might sound good in the short term that this company is going to pay you cash for your house now. But if it were me, I would get with a realtor or somebody who I trust, who knows a little bit about that industry, before I take that first offer of whatever they're going to pay. The quick sale pitch that they might give to you. I know they also try to target folks who also rent properties. If you have renters who don't pay you, they'll take the property off your hands. Things of that nature. Just it is. Again, we always advise people not to try to make decisions in the moment of panic or haste, or always let things kind of simmer before you jump into something.
And they're going to pay you well below the market
Correct.
value because
Yes.
they want to remodel it, put a lot of money into it, and then flip it.
Yes.
Yeah, or just flip it.
Yes.
Meaning immediately.
Well, sure.
So one thing you can be sure is that whenever you take a cash deal, when somebody says we buy houses cash today or in a week, you can be sure that they're going to be paying you less than market. And it's their challenge is to find people who are in circumstances that they need to get cash fast. So most of the sellers in those circumstances are in a difficult position due to an illness, due to legal problems, could be criminal issues, whatever it is. They need money. And often they will sell these houses real cheap.
And believe it or not, I know we're talking on Elder Talk here. That segment of the population, 60, 65 plus, you're going to be targeted by these people because they're thinking that, okay, maybe you're at the spot where you want to sell your residence. You've been in this residence for a long time. It doesn't take them much to learn how old you are. So again, I talk to senior citizens all the time with my job with the Better Business Bureau. And I talk to a lot of people who have been targeted by scams. Not that this is a scam, but you're going to be targeted by legitimate businesses. You're going to be targeted by scammers. You're going to be, because of how old you are, you are perfect because you have liquid assets. You have assets, you have money, you have everything that these people desire. So they might be able to think they can buy your residence for cheaper than what it is, just because maybe they don't respect senior citizens. I don't know, but there's certainly some disrespect there.
And I think you're right. It's not fair to call it a scam, but that category of people, I mentioned people who have some desperate need for cash, but you called attention to what probably is the largest category even, and that's people who are very old and perhaps, for lack of a better word, they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable in assessing the value of their house. They're more vulnerable to a persuasive argument.
Yep.
So they're an easier touch in negotiations for people whose intent is to buy houses and pay cash. It's not that you should never do a deal with somebody who's doing that, but you should be sure that whenever you're selling a house under those conditions, you're selling at a big discount because they've got to make money.
Yep.
And often they'll flip it. Many of them will buy these houses, and I know some of these investors, they'll buy these houses and literally in a few days sell it to somebody who's going to do a fix-up. So if they get a really good deal, if maybe some elderly person sells them a house that's worth $100,000 in its beat-up condition, and they get it for 80 or get it for 70 or 60 or 50, whatever they might get it for, then they will often flip it. They won't even fix it up.
Right.
Many of the people don't do fix-ups. They flip it to the people who do fix-ups. So they're getting it at such a discount that they can sell it again to somebody who needs to buy it at a discount.
They'll buy for 50 or 60 cents on the dollar, sell it for 70 cents on the dollar, and all of a sudden they've made, you give 60, you get 70, you've made $10,000 for doing pretty much nothing. So yeah, you've got to you've got to be careful if you're senior citizens, and we've talked about this with you guys before. You're the most attractive target for a lot of people. And going on to the scam side of things, believe it or not, and I think the public perception of senior citizens is that they're all sitting in their homes or their long-term care facilities or where what is it, community
living,
wherever it is, and that the first time a scammer calls, you're gonna get sucked into it. Not true. Senior citizens are the hardest people to scam. Is what we've done some our scam tracker. Yes, that segment of the population is the hardest to scam. They're not susceptible. Actually, the 18 to 24s are more susceptible to being scammed than people 65, 70 plus. What happens though is when a senior citizen does get on the hook by someone, their loss is a lot more than what it is for the people who are in those younger demographics.
Right, because they have their whole life savings, their
Correct.
home, all those assets.
That's
sure,
why
that makes sense.
The next time you hear about a 22-year-old who lost $250,000 in a scam, please let me know at the Better Business Bureau, because that's probably a first. Because
in other words, they're getting hit, but they don't have much.
Correct. Correct. And what they're getting hit by, the younger people, is they'll go on. We've seen during this pandemic, online scams have been through the roof. Especially early on, people were selling fake masks and they're putting up fake sites for everything. So, they might think this skirt is cute that they see online and it might be $70 somewhere else and they see it for $32. Well, they sent this $32 to this scam site. Mm-hmm. They never see the dress and they lose $32. Okay, we see that. That's a dime a dozen. But your senior citizen, on the other hand, they're not going to make that same type of purchase. Their scammers are going to the 18-year-old is not going to, or the 22-year-old, we'll put it out there. The 22-year-old isn't going to get really targeted by the scammers the same way that the senior citizens are. And the senior citizens do a great job of not getting hooked. But again, when they do get hooked, they can get taken for a lot of money because they're so trusting. Sure. They've seen a lot in their lives, and the handshake used to be we used to be the way to do business, and they believe people. They take people at their word, whereas people of younger generations really don't.
Yeah.
So it's easier for them to get sucked in.
And I think surely we'd have to qualify that, though. We would have to say the senior people whose capacity, their mental faculties, for example, are fully intact. Mm-hmm. Surely, though, as you get people who age and become vulnerable in that way, surely those people are not capable of having the sort of healthy skepticism that perhaps.
Well, and that's why I go back to what I talked about a little bit earlier on, is that if you have an older one in your life, an older loved one in your life, and they're at the spot where you think they're maybe not as on the razor's edge as they used to be, hold their hand for lack of a better term, more than you might have before this, because they're going to be targeted, and you've really got to check on. We're in the middle of a blizzard right now as far as scammers go, and you've got to check on those older folks to make sure that they aren't being taken advantage of.
What's the best way, though, for people to follow up on what they think is a suspicious communication? I mean, tell me a little more about what the Better Business Bureau contributes in that respect and what the other options are.
We get calls all the time from people who will call us about suspicious things they may get in their mail or their email, or they may get a text or a phone call. We're just a phone call away. We have people on. We actually, you call places and you don't get voices. You don't hear a real person. You call our office between 9 and 4 between Monday and Friday. You're going to hear a live person.
That's unusual in this day and age.
I know. Our number is really, it's 314-645-3300. Again, that's 314-645-3300. You call that number and you can ask us. We're there to help you. We're there to help you. And part of my job as an investigator, people send me stuff all the time. I got something from a guy today who was going to be charged $87 for some plot of land that he bought up in Boone County. And I said, no, that's a total falsehood. These people, this is not a governmental agency of any sort. They're just trying to get money out of you. So, we're there to help help you figure out, is it real or is it not real? So we can help you. We can help you with that. There's some things you can do yourself that, if you come across a website that you want to buy some protective masks for your family, and you see this website that has a really good deal, then you could go to something called whois.com. You could take the name of that website, pop it right in there, and so you can see how old the website is. We've gotten a lot of scams on the online thing. A lot of these websites, these scam mask websites popped up. They were originated in March and April.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, I came across a series of websites that were selling pools and like playground equipment, like backyard swing sets and stuff.
Outdoor
stuff for a lot cheaper. I'm like, why are these, they were selling these $2,000 playground sets for like $300. And we're getting reports of this. Like, why would anybody go to that? But because a lot of the playgrounds have been shut down. A lot of the pools this summer were shut down. So people were trying to buy these backyard pools. So the scammers, thinking that, these people are smart. They set up these fake pool websites. They set up these fake playground websites that were just set up in like April and May. And people would send them their money. They would send a check or whatever it might be to that organization. They didn't pay by credit card. If you pay by debit card, again, we've talked about this on before too. Pay by credit card because you have some instant protections there. You can do a chargeback.
Not debit card.
Not debit card. Debit card is like paying them with a check from your bank. That money is, once the scammers
It's
have it, it's
linked
all
right
but
to your
gone.
bank, right.
It's all but gone.
Well, I want to emphasize something you were talking about, though, is that many people don't realize that the BBB, the Better Business Bureau, has investigators.
Yep.
And that you, for example, are one of those that you will actually look into a suspicious transaction.
We have one I'm our only full-time investigator, but we do have, I think it's 6 people who work the phones every day, and they feed me stuff all the time. So we're here to help you. We're here to, it's called the Better Business Bureau, but we deal with consumers more than we deal with businesses. We are very thankful for the businesses that we have accredited businesses who help us out and who help our mission by supporting us. But these consumers, we want to help consumers because we want to help the consumers make an informed decision in the marketplace. We want to make sure that if you want to buy that backyard pool for your child during the pandemic, that you're buying it from a reputable source. If you get this email from someone and if they say they're the IRS, we want to make sure that you don't give money to anybody that shouldn't otherwise get it. The IRS is never going to email you, by the way, with asking for money or information.
And I saw an American Greed episode that involved a St. Louis-based company. I just saw this in the last 6 months or so.
Really?
But it was a St. Louis-based company who had been selling insurance for your car or as a warranty.
You're talking
for
about
your
U.S.
car.
Fidelis is what the U.S. Fidelis case
You're
is.
familiar with that?
Oh,
Yep.
yes.
So you know what was very pivotal in that finally getting discovered? I mean, they had thousands and thousands of complaints. The Better Business Bureau, y'all got some great publicity.
We did, and Michelle Corey, our CEO, was very instrumental in that. Bill Smith, the investigator, who was an investigator here before me, he retired, and I kind of took his place, and I was able to learn under his wing for about 6 months before he retired for good. Yeah, that was U.S. Fidelis. Michelle was very instrumental in that, and we really, it's stuff that we found, and we let the federal investigators know. We have something in the St. Louis area that we host called the Consumer Fraud Task Force, where we have not only ourselves, but we have the attorney generals from Missouri and Illinois, FBI, FTC. We have U.S. postal inspectors are involved. We have St. Louis Metropolitan Police that are involved. We've been meeting monthly during the pandemic. Usually we have quarterly meetings. And because of our involvement with that, we're able to share information between all these agencies.
So there's the coordination in the St. Louis area.
Correct.
And those folks did pretty well with that scam because they had this house in Lake St. Louis.
You remember this?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I flew actually over that house. At the time, I was an airborne traffic reporter, and we used to fly over that house, and it had, I think they said, a bowling alley, a movie theater.
So I remember that house. It was like a $10 or $12 million house. That was in Lake St. Louis?
Yes.
I swear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was amazing.
And it got a lot. I mean, again, we were talking something that happened, I believe, in 08 or 09, about 10, 11 years ago.
Right.
So it's been out of the public consciousness for a while. But yeah, that's what BBB, that's the, again, we were just one small part of that, but that's, it took consumers telling us about their dealings with that company, which led to us saying, hey, to our partners inside that Consumer Fraud Task Force, you guys might want to look into this a little bit more. And then, boom, it really.
And
took off from there.
I think too, it's important to bring up about the Better Business Bureau. You have the charity check, and during this time where there's so much need and so many organizations are asking for help, you definitely want to check it out now because you could see scams with charities.
Yeah, a lot of scams.
Without a doubt. We have our own charities website called give.org. Or you can call us. You can call us anytime between 9 and 4. We'll give you that information. But if you're online, give.org and it'll tell you about charities throughout America, not just things here in St. Louis.
Great resource. Boy, time has flown. We're out of time. Don O'Brien, we definitely want to have you back again.
I love coming to see you guys.
Yeah,
We love
wealth of
having you.
useful information. So again, those who are following the show, keep in mind, at the end of this month, the show will continue, but it will be on TuckerAllen.com or JoeCordell.com. Either one. We'll continue the show, though, and we'll mention this in the future. This has been another episode of Elder Talk. Till next week, take care.
You've been listening to Elder Talk with Tucker Allen, providing intelligent answers for those thinking about their future, with attorney CPA Joe Cordell. Sponsored by Tucker Allen, your estate and elder law advisors. For more information, visit tuckerallen.com. Listen again next Saturday for another edition of Elder Talk with Tucker Allen. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.